SNMP, and we wrap it up. So what do we mean by enumeration? After the scanning phase, the next phase we are going to dive into is known as enumeration. So the goal is to gather more detailed information on both devices and resources attached to the network. This includes account names, shares, configured services, and so on. Now, the final scanning phase. Enumeration involves active connection to the remote devices in the network. There are many protocols on network system that one can easily exploit if administrators do not take the necessary steps to either secure the protocols or disable them. In this model, we see ways of identifying this protocol with intent to eventually learn how to exploit them in later phases. For example, NetBIOS, which stands for Network Basic Input and Output System, is a service that allows Windows system to share files, folders, and data among machines on a LAN. If not properly configured, it can lead to a large amount of information leakage. NetBIOS can be extremely useful in determining types of system information, such as IDs and open shares. Let's talk more about NetBIOS. Before seeing what techniques and tools we can use to gather information from NetBIOS, it's important to understand how NetBIOS and NetBIOS over the TCP or the MBT work. The very version of NetBIOS was developed later in 1983. It was designed as an API, not as a protocol, as many suspect, that served the purpose in developing client-server applications. So the main purpose of NetBIOS is to allow applications on different systems to communicate with one another over the LAN. It is used for a multitude of purposes, including sharing printers and files, remote procedure calls, exchange messages, and much more. As expected, these features may reveal additional information such as computer names, username domains, printers, available shares. So let's look at this the screenshot below. So this screenshot below shows the network names on a machine. To see this information, you can run the following command. So if you want to know more about your system, you can run the command nbt start-n. nbt start-n. So for example, let me switch over to my command line, and let me try this command, nbt start-n. Sorry, I think I missed out something right. Sorry, I'm supposed to. So if you look at this, if you look at this IP address of my system, right? Of my system, because I use wireless connection, 172.20.10.9. And these are the details, these are the hosts on this particular system. And there's a domain called workgroup. Assuming that I have much more, it will display everything being displayed. So for each of my interface, for my VMware network, for IP address 192.168.20.1, because of the way I do the network configuration, you can see that I was able to see the various host name on this system. So you should have something a bit different from my system, depending on your system. And so what you can also do, you can try as much as possible to run one or two hosts. You can start your OWASP, the OWASP vulnerable application, the broken web application on your lab. Start that and try and run, make sure that it's running, and try and run the nbt start-n. So mind you, this command is a Windows command. So that's why I asked you to make sure that you have one or two your Windows running. You can have install your Windows XP and also your host. So run the command on your host and observe what you see. But in my machine, the second machine, I was able to get a whole lot more information. You can see it. These are the different host name, and these are the various group on different machine. So if you run this on the corporate network or on a LAN network, you get a whole lot. But before, make sure that you have an authority, as I've said, before you can apply the command. So before you do some of these exercises that will be treated in this class. So this is the usage. For you to understand the usage, if you remember when I type the wrong command, just type the MBT start, MBT that you can say that help for you to have an understanding. If you want to display all the adapters and the adapter status, so that A list the remote machine in a stable given this name. So dash capital A list the name given this IP address. So if I do this, let's see. So it was my 172. I tried to yeah, 20.10.9. That would be my, would it take a while? So you can go through the usage. We have different switch, and as a classwork, try that. That's within 10 minutes. You should be able to get that. So just for you to get familiar with the use of MBT stats. So this is very, very important for you to have an idea of your system. So the main purpose to allow application of different systems to communicate with one another over the LAN. That's the main purpose of Windows. So using the machine as the target of our test, we can open a Windows terminal and use MBT start to start gather information about it. Notice that our Windows system, MBT start is already installed. So we have it installed on the Windows system. For example, if I want to try something similar here, what I will need to do. So before you try that, start your Windows XP. You can install one or two Windows machine in your system so that you can have a feel of how this command works. So before we start that, let me confirm my IP address. Then my IP address is 172. So if you have more system on your host, you have something like this. But if you want to just do the general so you can see because I do not have more than one system installed, so that's why on my host, that's why I have this. Assuming that I'm connected to a live network or I'm connected to a lab, I will be able to have much more than this IP, the host they've been listed. So that's how to leverage on the use of MBT start. So let's proceed. So what I told you that this MBT start is a Windows command. So the Linux equivalent is MBT scan. So you can run MBT scan on your Linux machine. So if you are using Linux, there are other tools that allow us to obtain similar information. One of the most popular is MBT scan. So let's try this on our Linux environment. Let me switch over to my Kali. Let me open a new terminal. Let's do MBT start. Or MBT scan, sorry. That you specify the ranges of 30.10.9 and do this. Let me check for the IP address of the IP address for my VMware. I think I have 40 dots. I have to check. Okay. MBT scan dash. All right, I'm supposed to do 190 dots 168. That's 24. Okay. So it is scanned through all the available hosts. So it can only display for this particular host, all the available hosts within that range. I can only see detail of 192.168.40.1/1. If I want to do for this, all right. So that's how to use the Kali, the line of equivalent of MBT start. So we use MBT scan in Linux. So if I want to, let's presume that I want to write a script. I want to run a Python script. So to run this MBT scan. So as you can see, MBT scan is like a kind of a sub process on Python. It's like a kind of a sub process on your Linux. So what you need to do, you need to start your interactive share, the Python interactive share. Let's start it. Let's start the Python interactive shell. So having done that, let's import the OS command. Let's import the process. So having import the subprocess, you can now call the subprocess function. So process dot call. So you now embed your your command mbt scan. Specify the parameter. One 192.168 dot dot 40.1. So that's how to. So just to tell you that you can actually run a script, a Python script to invoke uh, your uh, your MBT scan. So you can see, having done that, you can see that this is the result on the screen. So just same thing, similar to what was done. So if I want to develop a script, if I have a lot of, I want to automate my work, I can develop a script to do the stuff and also write the output. I can format the hard disk properly, the output properly, and send it to a text file or to a file that can later be further analyzed. So that's how to leverage Python subprocess to automate this command. So that's that. So another command that is very important is the next command. So net command. So with this information, we can now move on and verify that the target machine is shared over the network because we've gotten some information now. So do this, we can use the Microsoft net command. The net command offers many features such as the ability to update user account, display, view, and modify services, connect computer to share resources, and much more. For our purpose, we will focus on the net view command. So if you want to do a further display, at least this for this particular host, let me go back to my Windows box. I can do net view and 9.2.168.40.1. So these are some very critical. So these are the name. You can see that this command display all the shares on that particular app. I've shared a folder called users. I shared a folder called temp. I shared a folder called resources. I shared a folder called EY-lab. So because I've been able to establish that this particular host with my MBT scan or MBT stats, I've been able to establish that this particular host 40.1 so has a shared resources. So from there, if you want to view all the resources that are shared, you use the net view command. Use the net view to view all the available resources that are shared. Now, so as you can see from the previous screen, the command completes successfully and lists the resources shared by the target machine. To explore these shares, we can simply browse them by utilizing the net use command. So now that we've seen that that resources that are shared, we can now use the net use. So let's presume that, okay, I want to navigate to these resources. One of these resources called EY Lab. I can now say net use. Okay, let me do this TEMP. Okay, sorry, I need to mount it on a, let's say, on a drive K. Let me see, I'm mounting it on a drive K, right? And let me specify the path. I've mounted this guy on this drive. Okay, you can see that it's done successfully. So these are the series of commands that you use to get you use, first of all, do the MBT start or MBT scan on Linux. So if you've been able to discover that the resource was shared, you use net view to display all the resources, all the drives that are shared. So for you to mount that drive, you use the net use. So net use command can be used to connect or disconnect a computer from a shared resource. This means that we can connect our computer to the remote share file in order to navigate the remote folder. For example, if you want to start a connection on the C resource, you use the following command. So that is that. So if I go to where's my C, you can see that. So I've mapped it, so I can easily call up this guy on drive K. So I can get all the information that I need to get. So I purposely shared that file. I didn't drop. I mean that there's some sensitive stuff there, so that's how I've been able to see that. So that's how to conduct a further attack and how to further attack on your shared resources. So for this case, so it depends on what you need to do for your classwork. You can share 1 or 2, 3 folders and leverage on this command to see how you can use your various command, net view, net use, and also I think there are 3 of them, right? Net use, net view, and also be able to know how to leverage on the MBT scan or MBT start if you are working on Windows environment. So now let's talk about the node session. We have seen thus far, for example, of basic NetBIOS information that you can gather from Windows and Linux operating system. Now we move on to the other tools, a command that can also provide a greater deal of additional information. So if you want to query the NetBIOS API and explore the node session model, You can only do this exploitation if your system is vulnerable to non-session vulnerability. Before digging into a tool or command, let's clarify what a non-session is and how it works. Non-session are one of the oldest and most known attack performed on Windows 2000 and Windows NT environment. Thanks to this weakness, malicious users are able to establish a connection to the victim in order to gather information such as shares, user group, registry key, and much more. But in the earlier version of Windows, this vulnerability has been addressed. And if you are working in a organization that have existed for a long period of time, you might have some legacy application or some legacy system using Windows 2000. So I don't know if you, sorry, the class lab, can you download the Windows 2000? You can search for it on the internet, download it, and make sure that that particular Windows is vulnerable to non-session vulnerability, and also leverage on the MBT start to run to discover. So when you install that, so shared one or two file resources, and for you to simulate what we demonstrated so far, and also after that you can try this next line of command. So as I've said, non-session is rely on common internet file system and server message block SMB API that return information even to an unauthenticated user. In other words, a malicious user can establish a connection to Windows system without providing any username or password. In order for the attack to work, the connection must be established to the administrative shared name called IPC. So IPC stands for Inter-Process Communication. So just like the way you use your net use, so you try this command. I will give you some time. I think within the next 30 minutes, you'll be able to download Windows Server 2000. Download it. So having done that, try making use of your MBT start on your host machine to discover some available shared resources. So you can create as many shared resources as possible. You can create like 2-3 folders as shared resources. I'll give you some time to do that. And see whether you can mount those resources on different drive. Now, we've already used drive K. You can try drive that has not been used. Maybe drive G, drive P, drive W. So if you've done that, you can see whether your version of Windows is vulnerable to non-session. Windows Server 2000 that you downloaded. Can you connect to the IPC shared folder with a non-session? So you make sure that you should be able to get the IP address with a NOS. So you just enter null username and null password. You should be able to successfully run this command. So if you are successful, your screenshot should be similar to what is displayed on the screen. So if not, can you troubleshoot and see where we've gone wrong? Or other thing you can run maybe your Nmap scan to be sure whether that particular version of Windows 2000 is vulnerable to non-session vulnerability. So you should be able to get that. So as you can see in the screenshot, the command works. For this moment on, we have an active connection to our victim. So I mean that you can just, you have that depend on what you want to do, your intention, if you want to exfiltrate data, if you want to do, if you want to maybe install a backdoor, if you want to hide your flag. So now depend on your target, on what you want to achieve with your exploitation of non-session vulnerability. But the earlier version of Windows, this vulnerability has been fixed on the earlier version of Windows. So that's why I want you to try it on Windows 2000. Okay. So you can see you establish a connection to the hidden shares, which is IPC shared. So I suppose this should be your IP address for your Windows Server 2000. You can see that you're able to log on with no password and empty username. So when we have a connection, we can use other tools to gather information from the remote machine. So you can now be gathering as much information as possible. Because what is much better for you to have establish a connection to your target machine. So we wish to gather as much information as we can. We will use different tools, especially designed to exploit non-session. As you see, we will be able to automatically gather a great deal of information from the remote machine. Notice that some of these tools are very old and OS dependent. Therefore, we use both Windows or Linux. So can you try that with your Linux, this classwork? So try that. I'll give you another 30 minutes to try that on your Linux environment. So if you're using Linux environment, mind you, NBT start will not work. It's NBT scan that you use, or you can use any other Linux equivalent. Those are the way I demonstrated. I'll give you some time to try that. You can also use your sub-process to automate your tasks. Let's presume that, okay, you've been able to establish the target machine, you want to automate your tasks, you can use the sub-process depending on what you want to do. So having done that,